engine was old and broken. Every mechanic on the station had said so. They told the merchant to buy a new ship because the one was dead, but did not believe in dead machines. He believed that everything could be fixed if you understood how it worked. He was lying under the engine now, his arms covered in black grease and old burn scars. The merchant stood nearby, his wolf-like face twisted with doubt. The alien was tall, covered in gray fur, and his yellow eyes watched with little hope. When the merchant growled, "Free of my own engineer said this engine cannot be saved. Why do you waste my time?" Not answer, he was listening to the machine. His fingers moved across wires and tubes, feeling for the problem. There, a cracked fuel line hidden behind the main chamber. The engineers had looked at the big parts. They had missed the small one. Minutes later, the engine roared to life. Merchant's ears went flat against his head in shock. He stared at the working engine, then at the human who was wiping grease from his hands with an old cloth. The merchant asked, "Your engineers look for big problems. Sometimes the small things break everything." Charged the merchant a fair price and watched him leave. Another impossible job finished. Another day on Horizon's Edge Station. Back to this small workshop in the lower levels of the station. This place was not beautiful. The walls were old metal, stained with rust and time. The air always smelled like fuel and recycled oxygen. But it was home. He had lived here for 3 years, fixing ships and machines that others threw away. His friend was waiting for him when he arrived. She was the station medic, a small woman with sharp eyes and a sharper tongue. She was holding 2 cups of bad coffee. "You look terrible," she said, handing him a cup. "Thank you. You look beautiful, too." Laughed and sat on a crate near his workbench. "Did you hear the news? A warship is coming, a big one." He's an eyebrow. Warships did not visit small stations like the one. They were proud warriors. They controlled a large part of the galaxy and rarely bothered with human-friendly codes. "Why?" he asked. The leader said, "He is traveling with his daughter. Apparently he is looking for a mate for her." A sip of his coffee. It tasted like engine fuel as always. "That sounds like a problem, not a human problem." The station administrator is very nervous. They are important trade partners. He wants everyone to behave. "I always behave." I told the ambassador that his ship was garbage, and he should be ashamed to fly it. His ship was garbage, I was being honest. Shook her head but smiled. That was, he said what he meant and meant what he said. It made him a bad politician but a good friend. The warship arrived that afternoon. From the window of his workshop as it docked. The ship was massive, dark metal and sharp angles, built for war and intimidation. Small ships scattered to make room for it. Even the station seemed to tremble slightly as it connected. In an hour, the delegation walked through the main corridor of the station, had come up to the observation deck to see. He was curious. He had worked with many before, but never one of high rank. It was impossible to miss. He stood nearly 3 meters tall, his body covered in black fur streaked with silver. His eyes were gold and cold, scanning everything around him with the calm confidence of a predator who had never known fear. He wore armor made of dark metal and bone, and when he walked, the crowd parted like water. And him came warriors, advisors, and servants. And then, walking in the shadow of her father, came his daughter. Her name was Nara. Did not know this yet. He only knew that she was different. She was smaller than the warriors around her, with silver gray fur and amber eyes that seemed tired. She was beautiful in the way a caged bird is beautiful, perfect and sad. Walked with her head high, but saw something in her posture, something heavy, like she was carrying a weight no one else could see. For just a moment, her eyes moved across the crowd and found his. They looked at each other. Then she looked away and continued walking. Did not know why that moment stayed with him. He went back to his workshop and tried to forget it. At night, the station administrator called a meeting for all permanent residents. He was a nervous man named Director, thin and always sweating. He explained the situation in a shaking voice. The leader had come to hold the trials. This was an ancient tradition. Males from across the galaxy would compete in tests of strength, endurance, and dominance. The winner would earn the right to mate with the pack leader's daughter. "Must not offend them," Director said again and again. "They are essential partners. Their trade routes keep the station alive. Please, everyone, be respectful." Listened but said nothing. The whole thing sounded barbaric to him. A woman given away as a prize to whoever could punch the hardest. But it was not his culture and not his business. Left the meeting early and walked to the observation deck. He needed quiet. He needed stars. When he arrived, he was not alone. I stood at the window, looking out at the endless darkness. She did not turn when she heard him approach. "You are the human," she said. Her voice was softer than he expected. "The one who fixes impossible things." Up a few steps behind her. "How do you know about me?" "Merchant whose engine you saved. He told my father's advisors. They were impressed." She paused. "It is not easy to impress them." "I just fixed an engine." "Fix what others said could not be fixed. That is different." She finally turned to look at him. Her amber eyes were sharp and intelligent. "Tell me, human mechanic, can you fix a life that someone else has already planned for you?" Not answer immediately. He looked at her, at the weight she carried, at the cage she lived in. "Do not know," he said honestly, "but I believe that nothing is truly broken. Not machines, not lives. Sometimes you just have to find the small thing that everyone else missed." I stared at him for a long moment. Then something changed in her eyes, something like hope. "Perhaps," she said quietly, "you are right." Walked away without another word, disappearing into the shadows of the station. Stood alone at the window, watching the stars. Days that followed were strange for him. He tried to return to his normal routine. He fixed engines. He repaired machines. He drank bad coffee with, but his thoughts kept returning to the observation deck, to the one with sad eyes and a heavy question. Saw Nara again 3 days later. She came to his workshop. It was late at night when she appeared at his door. She wore a simple cloak that hid her face, but recognized her immediately. He let her in without asking questions. "I should not be here," she said, pulling back her hood. "If my father knew I was visiting a human alone, he would be very angry." "Then why did you come?" He looked around his workshop, at the tools hanging on walls, at the half-repaired machines on his workbench, at the simple cot where he slept. "You are the only person on this station who did not look at me with hunger," she said. "Every male I meet sees a prize, a trophy, a path to power through my father. You looked at me like I was just a person." Down on his workbench, "You are a person." "Trials say otherwise." Her voice became bitter. "Tomorrow, males from 7 different species will fight and compete. They will hunt. They will try to dominate each other, and the winner will claim me like property. Is there no way to refuse? This tradition is older than memory. My father believes in it completely. He thinks he is doing right by me. He thinks he is finding me a strong protector." She laughed, but there was no joy in it. "He does not understand that I do not want to be protected. I want to be free." Talked for hours that night. learned that Nara was not the quiet, obedient daughter they believed her to be. She spoke 4 languages. She understood starship engineering better than most mechanics. She had read human books, studied human history, and dreamed of traveling the galaxy on her own terms. "Why do you not leave?" asked. "Go where I am the daughter of a pack leader. My face is known across space. I would be hunted," returned, shamed. She shook her head. "There is no escape for me, only escape." To argue, but he had no solution to offer. He was just a mechanic on a small station. What could he do against ancient traditions and a powerful pack leader? Are left before dawn. They agreed to meet again the next night. Trials began with fire and drums. From a distance as the competitors gathered in the station's large cargo bay, Director had cleared the space and built viewing platforms for important guests. They had decorated everything with banners and weapons. The air smelled like smoke and blood. Males had entered the trials. Most were warriors, tall and powerful, their fur groomed and their muzzles displayed proudly. But there were others too, a massive with 4 arms and skin like stone, 2 reptiles with sharp teeth and cruel eyes, even a tall from a species did not recognize. Stood in a line before pack leader, who sat on a raised platform like a king. Beside him sat Nara, dressed in ceremonial robes, her face empty of emotion. By one, the competitors declared their intentions. They boasted about their strength, their victories, their bloodlines. They promised to honor Nara and bring glory to the pack. Nara said nothing. She did not even look at them. First trial was combat. 2 competitors would fight until one submitted or could not continue. The matches were brutal. Watch warriors break bones and spill blood. The crowd cheered for every valiant blow. Felt sick, he'd earned a leave. As he walked through the corridor toward his workshop, he heard heavy footsteps behind him. He turned and found a warrior following him. It was one of the competitors, the massive 4-armed creature. His stone-like face was twisted with anger. And the growled, "You are the mechanic." "Yes, sir. I need a weapon repaired now." At the alien's hands, he was carrying a ceremonial blade cracked down the middle. "Trials forbid SI weapons," said. "I will not help you cheat." His eyes went dark. "You dare refuse me." "Yes, sir." Alien moved fast. He grabbed a heavy tool from a nearby shelf and swung it towards his head, but was faster than he looked. He ducked under the swing and stepped inside this reach. His fingers found a pressure point on the alien's inner arm. He pressed hard. Screamed and dropped the tool. Before he could recover, swept his leg and knocked him off balance. The alien fell hard and was on him in a second, his knee on his throat, applying just enough pressure to make breathing difficult. Said no, repeated calmly. Fight had lasted 8 seconds. Approached, looked up and saw pack leader standing at the end of the corridor. The massive had watched everything. His golden eyes were unreadable. Theon stood slowly. The alien scrambled away, humiliated and gasping. Walked closer, he was even more terrifying up close. His presence filled the corridor like a storm. Small, said studying, weak, soft, everything my people believe about humans. He tilted his head. Yet you defeated a warrior in seconds, how? Understand anatomy, he said. I know where things break. The sound that might have been a laugh, a mechanic who fixes machines and breaks warriors. He was silent for a moment. I invite you to join the trails, human. His stomach dropped. I have no interest in competing. It's not a request, it is an honor. Refusing would insult me personally. Eyes became cold, and insulting me would be very bad for the station. Understood the threat. If he refused, the Dane would suffer, director would suffer, his friends would suffer. He had no choice. Except he had the glint teeth. I was showing teeth like knives. Good, I look forward to watching you fail. He turned and walked away. Night Nar came to his workshop again. She had heard the news. Her eyes were burning with anger. I did not ask you to do this, she said. I did not ask you to save me. I am not trying to save you. Why enter the trials? You will lose, you will be hurt, may killed. Looked at her. In her anger, he saw fear. She was afraid for him. That surprised him. I'm not trying to win you, he said quietly. I am trying to show them that you are not something to be won. I stared at him. For a long moment she did nothing. Then her eyes softened and something new appeared in them, something like hope mixed with fear. You are a fool, she whispered. Probably agreed, but I am a fool who keeps his promises. Next morning's name was added to the list of competitors. The warriors laughed when they saw it. The other aliens sneered. A human in the trials was a joke to them. Nara did not laugh. She watched from her platform, her amber eyes fixed on the small human mechanic who had chosen to stand when everyone expected him to kneel. For the first time in years, he felt something she had almost forgotten. Hope. The trial of strength came first. In the arena with the other competitors, the warriors towered over him. The he had defeated glared at him with murder in his eyes. Even the smallest alien here was a head taller than. Rules were simple. Each competitor would lift a series of weights. The one who lifted the most would win. Pure strength, nothing else mattered. He would lose this trial before it even started. First weight was manageable. Everyone lifted it easily. The second weight was heavier. Some struggled. Arms burned, but he managed. The third weight was where competitors began to fall. 2 warriors failed. The reptiles could not lift it. He put everything he had into his legs and back. His maul screamed. His vision darkened at the edges, but he lifted it, barely. His body shook as he held it for the required time, then dropped it with a crash. The crowd was silent. They had expected him to fail much earlier. Weight was impossible for him. Tried anyway. He gripped the handles. He pulled with everything he had. The weight did not move. He tried again, and again. Blood veils burst in his eyes from the strain. Finally, he stepped back. He had failed. As he walked off the platform, he did not hang his head. He looked directly at pack leader. His message was clear. I tried. I did not quit. Eyes narrowed subtly. The human had lost, but he had not submitted. Interesting. On the trial of strength, he lifted the final weight with a roar of triumph and beat his chest like a beast. The crowd cheered. Know something? Nara was not watching this. She was watching him. Trial of the hunt came 2 days later. The station had a large simulation chamber used for training and entertainment. They had transformed it into a hunting ground, a dense forest with rivers and caves, populated by dangerous creatures bred for combat. The competitor was sent into the simulation alone. They had to track and capture a beast, predator with 6 legs, armored skin, and teeth that could cut through metal. The one who captured their beast fastest would win. Warriors entered first. They were confident. Hunting was in their blood. They tracked the beasts through the forest, fought them with raw power, and dragged them back in chains. Most succeeded within an hour. Some took longer. One was injured so badly he had to withdraw. Enter next. He simply chased his beast until it was exhausted, then crushed it into submission. Brutal but effective. His turn came. The crowd was already bored. They expected him to fail quickly. The forest and immediately stopped moving. He crouched near a stream and studied the ground, tracks, broken branches, the pattern of disturbed leaves. He was not looking for the beast. He was learning about it. 30 minutes he did nothing but observe. The crowd grew restless. Some laughed. What was this human doing? Was he afraid? Then started working. Gathered materials from the forest, vines, branches, sharp stones. He built something near a narrow path between two large rocks. It took another hour. Then the audience grew impatient. Some left. Ian looked bored. Nar leaned forward, her eyes bright with interest. She understood. She strapped just as knife fell in the simulation. Then he moved through the forest, making noise, leaving a trail. He was not hunting the beast. He was hurrying it. Appeared 30 minutes later, drawn by the noise. It was massive and terrifying, all muscle and teeth and hunger. It saw and charged. Ran. Sprinted toward the narrow path, the beast clove behind him. Just as he reached the rocks, he dove to the side. It could not stop in time. It charged through the path and into the trap. Trap collapsed around it. Weighted nets fell from above. Vines hung around its legs. Sharp branches pinned its neck to the ground. The beast roared and struggled, but it could not escape. Walked calmly to the trapped creature and placed his hand on its head. The capture was complete. Time 1 hour and 40 minutes, not the fastest, but he had captured the beast without violence, without blood, without injury. The crowd did not know how to react. Some called it cowardice, others called it trickery, but stood from his seat and stared at the human with new eyes. Interesting, the pack leader said softly. Trial of dominance was the final test before the championship fight. Batters faced each other in the arena. No weapons, no physical contact unless necessary. The goal was to make the other submit through intimidation alone. Whoever looked away first, whoever showed fear, whoever stepped back would lose. The opponent was a warrior named. He was Nar's brother, though did not know this yet. Was large and powerful with dark fur and eyes full of hatred. He despised humans. He despised this human most of all. Faced each other in the center of the arena. Immediately began the dominance display. He roared so loud the ground shook. He showed his teeth, each one as long as a finger. He circled like a predator, growling and snagging his jaws. Every movement was designed to create fear. Did nothing. Completely still. His hands were relaxed at his sides. His breathing was slow and steady, and his eyes never moved from his face. Roared again, louder this time. He stepped closer, close enough that could smell the predator's sting of his breath. Still, the human did not react. Past, roars became uncertain. His circle became wider. That was wrong. Every creature in the galaxy felt fear when faced with a dominant display. It was instinct. It was nature. This human showed nothing. No fear, no submission, no reaction at all. He simply stood there watching, waiting, his eyes steady and calm. But something he had never felt before. Doubt. Tried again. He slammed his fist into the ground near his feet, cracking the metal floor. Did not even blink. The crowd went silent. They were watching something impossible. For 7 minutes, his eyes flickered. Just for a moment, he looked away. The judge declared the winner. Arena erupting confusion. Some cheered. Many booed. But through it all, sat in perfect stillness, watching the human mechanic who had just made a warrior lose his nerve. Later that night, the pack leader found alone in the corridor. Do not fight like a warrior, said. You do not hunt like a predator. You do not dominate like an alpha. His voice was a dangerous rumble. What are you? Looked up at the massive alien without fear. I'm human, he said simply. We do not need to be the strongest. We just need to be the last one standing. Looked at him for a long moment. Then he made that strange sound again, the one that might have been a laugh. Tomorrow is the final trial, the pack leader said. Combat, no tricks, no traps, just you and the greatest warrior my people have ever produced. He leaned closer, his golden eyes burning. He will destroy you, human. Did not look away. Maybe, he said, but I will not sit down. Looked at him for one more moment. Then he turned and walked away into the darkness. Watched him go. His body ached from the trials. His mind was exhausted, but somewhere deep inside a fire was burning. Tomorrow he would face a monster. He would not kneel. The arena was packed with thousands of spectators. Word had spread across the station and beyond. A human had reached the final trial of it was unthinkable. It was impossible. Everyone wanted to see him fall. But on one side of the fighting ring, his body was still sore from the previous trials, had begged him not to do this. His young apprentice had cried and asked him to withdraw, but had refused. Things matter more than safety, he had told them. On the other side of the ring stood. Terrifying was a nightmare. He was the largest had ever seen, standing over 3 meters tall. His fur was pure white, marked with scars from 100 victories. His eyes were pale blue and completely empty of mercy. He had been bred for combat, trained from birth to kill. In 30 field trials across the sector, he had never lost. Many of his opponents had died. The crowd roared as both competitors entered the ring. The sound was deafening. Flags waved. Drums pounded. The air itself seemed to vibrate with violent energy. The leader stood from his throne and raised one massive hand. Silence fell instantly. The final trial, announced, his voice echoing across the arena. Combat, no weapons, no time limit. One must make the other submit. His golden eyes moved between and begin. Did not wait. Crossed the ring in 3 explosive strides and swung his fist towards head. Ducked, but he was too slow. The fist caught his shoulder and sent him spinning across the floor. Pain exploded through his body. He dazed blood. Barely had time to roll before it was on him again. A massive foot stomped down where his head had been. Scrambled backward, trying to create distance, but was faster than anything that size should be. Punch blocked it with both arms. The impact nearly broke them both. He felt something crack in his left wrist. His vision blurred. Grabbed him by the throat and lifted him off the ground. This grip was like iron. Could not breathe. He clawed at the massive hand, but it was like scratching stone. It said, his voice was flat, emotionless. Admit and I will make your death quick. Answer was to spit blood in his face. Expression did not change. He simply threw across the ring. The human hit the wall with a sickening crack and crumbled to the floor. The stand screamed, buried his face in his hands. Nar gripped the armrests of her seat so hard her claws drew blood from the wood. Not moved for a long moment. The crowd began to cheer. It was over. The human was finished. Then moved. Slowly, painfully, he pushed himself up. One arm hung limp at his side. Blood poured from a cut on his forehead, blinding his left eye. His ribs screamed with every breath, but he stood. The cheering stopped. Watched the human rise with something close to confusion. No one had ever gone up after that throw. It should have ended the fight. It should have ended most creatures. But the human was standing. Submit, said again. His head, blood sprayed from his lips. No. Again, he was fatter this time, more brutal. He wanted to end this. He hit in the chest, in the face, in the stomach. Each blow was strong enough to kill. Each blow sent the human crashing to the ground. And each time stood back up. The crowd grew quiet. Something was changing in the arena, something they did not understand. This human was weak, broken. He could not win. Every person watching knew this, but he kept rising, again and again and again. Knocked him down a seventh time, an eighth, a ninth. Stood up. His left eye was swollen shut. At least 3 ribs were broken. His wrist was shattered. Blood covered him like a sand skin. He could barely stand, but he stood. I asked. For the first time there was emotion in his voice. Frustration, may fear. You cannot win. You are weak. You are nothing. Why do you not submit? Did him through his one good eye. Somewhere behind all the pain there was something burning, something unbreakable. Because humans do not submit, he said. His voice was barely a whisper, but in the silence of the arena everyone heard it. We do not kneel. We do not break. You can kill me, but you will never make me give up. At him. For the first time in his life, the greatest warrior of the did not know what to do. He had won every fight through strength and violence. Opponents submitted or died. But this human was different. He could not make him submit. And something inside recoiled from killing a creature who refused to stop fighting. Warrior looked toward Pack Leader. His eyes were asking a question he had never asked before. What do I do? Rose from his throne. The arena fell completely silent. Pack Leader descended from his platform and walked into the ring. His massive form moved between and the broken human. He stopped directly in front of him. Cannot win this fight, said. Your body is destroyed. One more blow will kill you. His golden eyes searched face. Why do you not yield? Looked up at the Pack Leader. Blood dripped from his chin. His body swayed, but his eyes were clear. She's watching, he said quietly. Your daughter is watching, and she needs to know that someone will stand for her. Not to own her, not to claim her, but because she deserves to see that there are people in the galaxy who believe she is more than a prize. Went completely still. Not fighting to win her, continued. His voice was weak but steady. I'm fighting to show everyone here that the old ways are wrong, that strength is not just muscle and violence, that the strongest thing a person can do is stand for what is right, even when they know they will lose. Rena was silent, no one moved, no one breathed. Looked at the human for a long time. His golden eyes were unreadable. His massive body cast a shadow over the broken mechanic. Slowly, the Pack Leader reached down and placed his hand on his uninjured shoulder. Now, said softly, you have proven yourself. Turned to face the crowd. His voice rose to fill the arena. Trial is over. There will be no victor today, not because the human has lost. His eyes swept across the thousands of faces watching, but because he has shown us something we had forgotten. True strength is not measured in the blood you spill. It is measured in what you are willing to sacrifice for what you believe. Over his head, the crowd sat in stunned silence. Nara, tears streamed down her face, finally understood what hope truly felt like. Woke 3 days later in the staged metal bay. First thing he saw was white ceiling lights. The second thing he saw was a tired face looking down at him. She had dark circles under her eyes. She had not slept much. Stupid, stubborn, impossible man, she said. Her voice cracked. I thought you were dead. It smiled, it hurt, everything hurt. How bad? 4 broken ribs, shattered wrist, fractured jaw, internal bleeding, bruised organs, cuts that needed 57 stitches. She wiped her eyes angrily. You should be dead. Any normal person would be dead. Good thing I am not normal. Laughed and hit his shoulder. Then she hugged him carefully, avoiding his bandaged chest. Never do that again. I will try. For the next few days, visitor came. At first, bringing terrible coffee and happy tears. He told that everyone on the station was talking about him. The human who challenged a champion. The human who would not fall. Famous said, they are writing songs about you on the songs, about a human mechanic. Did not know how to feel with that. There came next, nervous as always, but deeply grateful. The trials had brought enormous attention to the station. Trade requests were flooding in. Diplomats wanted to visit. The little frontier post was suddenly important. Saved us, director said. I do not know how, but you saved the station. Shook his head. I just did not give up. Sometimes, director replied, that is the most powerful thing a person can do. On the 5th day, Nar came. Entered the medical bay quietly and sat beside his bed. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. There was too much to say and no easy way to say it. Father wants to see you, she finally said, when you are well enough to walk. Should I be worried? Smiled. It was the first real smile he had seen from her. It transformed her face, turning her from a caged bird into something free and beautiful. No, she said, you should not be worried. Visit every day after that. They talked about machines and stars and dreams. They talked about the life she wanted and the life he had built. They talked about everything and nothing. And slowly in that small medical room on a French station, something began to grow between them. Not love, not yet, but the beginning of something real. He was finally strong enough to walk. 2 guards came to escort him to Pack Leader's ship. The journey through the station was strange. People stopped to stare. Some bowed their heads in respect. Others whispered his name, felt uncomfortable with all the attention. He was just a mechanic. He had not done anything special. He had simply refused to quit. The ship was even more impressive on the inside than the outside. Dark metal corridors lined with weapons and trophies. Portraits of past Pack Leaders watching from the walls. Everything spoke of power and tradition straightening back thousands of years. He hid in a private chamber, alone except for Nara. Pack Leader looked different from the last time I'd seen him. Smaller somehow. Not in body, but in presence. The cold, terrifying predator had been replaced by something more complex. Something almost vulnerable. Human said, sit. Across from him, Nara remained standing near her father. I've ruled my people for 40 years, began. In that time I have never lost a battle, never shown weakness, never bowed to anyone. His golden eyes met, until now. At nothing, he waited. Trials were never truly about finding the strongest mate for my daughter, continued. They were about finding someone worthy of her, someone who would value her beyond tradition, beyond conquest. He paused. Every competitor I have ever saw Nara as a prize, a stepping stone to power, possession to claim. Looked at his daughter with an expression I'd never seen on a face. Love, pure and painful. But the only one who saw her as a person, the only one who fought not to own her, but to prove she was not something to be owned. Voice grew heavy. You showed me that my traditions were hurting my daughter. You showed me that my strength was actually weakness, and you did this while bleeding and broken, against an opponent who should have killed you. Leader stood. He was still massive, still terrifying, but when he looked at now, there was respect in his eyes. My people, the greatest honor is acknowledgement between equals, lowered his head slowly. The gesture was small but meaningful. I acknowledge you, not as a mate for my daughter, not as a champion, but as someone who taught me what true strength looks like. Well, it's just Titan. He had not expected this. He had expected anger or tests or threats, not respect. Give my daughter her freedom, continued. From this day forward, she will choose her own path. If she wishes to stay with our people, she may. If she wishes to travel the stars, she may. If she wishes to stay on the station with a human mechanic who fixes impossible things. He looked at Nara, and something like a smile crossed his face. She may. Nara's eyes filled with tears. She moved to her father and wrapped her arms around him. The Massive held his daughter gently, like she was made of glass. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you, father. Looked over his daughter's head. Take care of her, human, not because she needs protection, but because everyone deserves someone who sees their worth. Now I will. 8 days later, the warship prepared to leave. The entire station gathered to watch. Walked through the docking bay, his warriors behind him, his head held high. But before he boarded his ship, he stopped in front of his workshop. The mechanic was already back at work. Old hats die hard. He was elbow deep in a broken engine when the shadow of the pack leader fell across him. Human said, looked up, pack leader. Shouting gripped his shoulder. The gesture was strong but not painful. Among them it meant brotherhood, it meant family. Changed, my daughter said. You changed me, perhaps. You have changed my people. He released shoulder. If you ever need the pack, human, you have only to call. This I swear. And he turned and walked onto his ship without looking back. The warship rise from the docking bay. He watched it turn toward the stars. He watched it jump into hyperspace, carrying a father who had finally learned what strength truly meant. And him he heard footsteps, appeared at his side, still wide-eyed from everything that had happened. What did you win? The young prince asked. After all the fighting, all the pain, what did you actually win? Alden picked up his wrench. He turned back to the broken engine on his workbench. Nothing, he said. That was the whole point. Through the viewport of his workshop, he could see Nara walking across the station, free for the first time in her life. She was laughing at something someone had said. Her silver fur caught the starlight. Her amber eyes were bright with joy. Watch her for a moment, then he returned to his work, still smiling. Things, he thought, were worth more than winning. Things were worth standing for, even when you knew you would fall. Sometimes, the greatest victory was not defeating your enemy. It was showing them a better way to live. Had a feeling that his quiet life was about to become very complicated.